bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
You're listening to the Who-Dey Weekly Podcast. Who-Dey Weekly is brought to you by Stitcher.com. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at Stitcher.com/SPNT. Bengals victorious in week 1 of the preseason over the New York Jets. Glad you could join us here on Who-Dey Weekly, episode 76 here on the podcast. Glad you could join us. I'm Nick Superling, joined alongside, we welcome him back, Timm Bates. What's happening, Tim? How you been?
Doing good, man. I'm glad to be back on. I've got busy last week, but, those things happen, especially during the summer, but back where I belong.
You're back. You're here on Who-Dey Weekly. We missed you. We saw on the website that you went to the Jets game. We'll talk to you about that here in just a bit. We'll also look back at the game itself. A lot of injuries for the Bengals. They seem to not avoid the injury bug with some crucial players getting some injuries there. We'll also look at the punt return game. Who should be returning punts for the Bengals? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk a little Chad Johnson. Yes, he had a very rough weekend, should we say, Tim? And maybe we'll look ahead to the Falcons game and maybe some fantasy football talk as well. All that and much more here on Who-Dey Weekly. Don't forget you can email us at podcast@whodayyfans.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter. We are at Who-Dey Weekly. All right, Tim, so you were at Paul Brown Stadium Friday night for the Jets game. How was it?
Well, the game was a lot of fun. I posted this in an article I wrote the other night, but I actually got 2 front row tickets and a parking pass for $49 on eBay. And I was blown away. I was surprised that I was able to get it so cheap. And we had also gotten 3 tickets for $60 in the opposite end zone. So we weren't all sitting together, but we took the kids and my oldest son's girlfriend and yes, 49 American Reed. But it was very cool. It was the first time I think I had ever sat front row in a football stadium, for any kind of game at any level. But it was pretty neat, and we were right over the time, like the play clock. So just a little left of the goalpost, and it was neat to see the balls being kicked there and stuff. Just kind of a vantage point you don't get very often. I think Mickey's season tickets are somewhere in that range, or they used to be at one point anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where his seats are, and I don't think he ended up going. Mickey, obviously not with us this week. He's on vacation in Hilton Head. Must be nice. Here we are busting our butts here on the podcast. Somebody's out on the beach. I think we'll allow it, though. Mickey's a good dude. So when you were at the Jets game, I noticed that was your son wearing a Jets uniform?
Well, Alex has as a stated goal to own a jersey for every NFL team.
Wow.
And his mom bribed him because he has a Darrelle Revis jersey, and his mom told him that he could sit in the front row for half the game if he wore his Jets jersey. So, I was just glad that my other son, and his girlfriend both wore Bengals stuff. So, there was 3 of us and 2 of them. So it worked out okay. But yeah, Alex was a little bit of a traitor, but that's all right.
A Jets jersey. I was surprised. So how many NFL teams does he have?
17, I think, of the.
Wow.
What was there, 32? So he's got like
almost half.
Almost half of them.
Does he just over half? Yeah. Does he have a Houston Oilers jersey?
No, he doesn't have.
So it's only the strict current NFL, the way it is today.
Right. Like he's got a Titans, like Chris Johnson jersey.
All right.
The only AFC North jersey that he has is like an old Braylon Edwards Browns one, we got it at that real big flea market up near the Cincinnati Premium Outlets.
Traders World.
Yeah, Traders World. That place is awesome. But they had like these, and these are like the authentic jerseys with like the sewn-on letters and everything. And we got that one for like $17 because he had already left Cleveland, and everybody, I mean, it's the Browns. What do you expect? But that's the only AFC North one he has besides his AJ Green one. So
We went
so,
76 episodes before we finally mentioned Trader's World on this podcast. That is crazy.
and for fans of the Sizzle and Steve show, that's where we got our puppets too. So
Wow.
Trader's World is a pretty cool place.
You got to love driving up 75 North and seeing the anatomically correct horse. That is big. All right, so how do we talk about the actual football game itself? The Bengals do win. I don't know if it necessarily matters, but it is a preseason win for the Bengals. When you consider where they were a year ago in their first preseason game, you'll take it. Granted, it was against the Jets, who clearly have quarterback issues, but really the issues that hurt the Bengals right about now are the injuries. We know that Travell Wharton, their free agent acquisition during the offseason at guard, out for the year with the knee ligament injury on the third play of the game. Bengals lose 4 players in 7 plays, Tim.
Yeah, that part was unfortunate, and at one point we just were like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen next?" But the big things that stood out to me, though, outside of that, the Jets' offensive line was awful. I really felt like our linebackers played well. I was very impressed with them. That was what I considered to be somewhat of a weakness for us. And those guys really seemed to step up. Even Dan Skuta had a good game, so it wasn't just the starters. And so I was encouraged by that, and I really felt like the line played good. I thought a couple of former Kentucky Wildcats, DeQuinn Evans and Micah Johnson, both of those guys played pretty solid. And and I'll just throw him out there, but John Connor for the Jets, another former Kentucky player, he got to play some. So it was a nice little Kentucky love fest there. But like I was saying, I thought the defensive line and linebackers both played pretty good. And offensively, AJ Green, he disappointed. He had some drops, but I'm not really too worried about that yet. I was pretty let down, though, about Mohamed Sanu. I just felt like he didn't show up at all. And, he was, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that he was kind of my guy for the number 2 slot, and he's not looking it right now.
And Mickey's been singing his praises, too, over the last few weeks. And from everything that I've been reading today, Sanu is just, you're right, he's nowhere to be found. I don't even think he was targeted in the game against the Jets. Another guy that people are reporting is having a tough time. Granted, he's coming off of a pretty serious knee injury. Is Jordan Shipley. Jay Gruden quoted today, basically telling him that Jordan needs to show us in the next 16 practices whether he's one of the best 53 men on this roster. Tim, would you be disappointed to see Jordan go?
I would be, but he may not be one of the top 4 or 5 best receivers that we have. Like, he's going to have to prove it on the field. He's going to have to show that he's got the same athleticism that he had in college. And, I feel like Baby Hawk's putting some pressure on him. We have several options there for the slot. I know there was some talk about Sanu playing the slot, so I think we definitely have some other options, but I'd hate to see him go because somebody else would pick him up.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because coming out of college, you knew he had some promise. He had a really good first year with the Bengals with Carson as his quarterback. There was a pretty horrific injury in Denver last year. I mean, that was a pretty gross-looking knee injury, and I really do hope that they somehow find a way for him to make this team. But as it stands right now, he's on the outside looking in. Hopefully, Sanu will get another chance here on Thursday night as the Bengals head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons in preseason game number 2. We'll touch on that a little bit later. I want to get to some more stuff in this Jets game. Carlos Dunlap and Ray Maluga both getting injured, Tim. When you saw Dunlap go down, were you holding your breath too?
Yeah, my heart skipped a beat on that one because, he's kind of the high-energy guy. He's like the high-upside guy of the D-line. A lot of those guys are, kind of third, fourth fifth-round picks, and he's kind of the guy that has the most promise. So I've really got high hopes for him, and I'm hoping that he'll, be able to come back quickly. And then Maaluga, I think he ended up okay. I know, like, right at the end of the game, he came over, and there was a pretty young kid, probably like 9 or 10 years old, sitting right next to us, and he came over and gave that kid his hat as he was leaving the field, which I thought was pretty cool. I was a little jealous, but but I thought that was a very nice thing for him to do, and he seemed like he was doing okay.
Yeah, I guess the word is he's going to make it for the Packers game, which is here in a couple weeks. I believe that's preseason game number 3. I could be mistaken. I haven't looked at the preseason schedule, but his injury doesn't sound too serious. I guess Dunlap should be ready for week 1, which is big. We need him to be healthy. Seemed like he was injured all last season, and we really need him to be healthy so that he could be a force on that defensive line, take some pressure off of some of the other guys. Looks like Robert Gathers is injured as well. So there's some injuries going around the team. Hopefully they can avoid that a little bit more Thursday night when they head to Atlanta. One guy that we haven't mentioned yet, Vontaze Burfict, had an interception of Tim Tebow. Make of it what you want. It was Tim Tebow. I get it. But it was still an athletic interception at that.
Yeah, that was a really nice play. I went back and watched it on video after I got home, and I was like, yeah, I mean, he read that play. He knew exactly where it was going from the snap, and that's just the kind of heads-up play that he's going to need to make to be able to, to get playing time and to have a good chance to be a long-term fixture here in Cincinnati. So I was very happy for him. I'm not going to badmouth Tebow. I like Tebow as a person. Quarterback-wise, I'm certainly glad that we have Dalton instead. But I mean, Tebow's a good. He seems to live what he says, and so that is impressive to me. I'm definitely not a Gators fan. So I'm not going to just go gaga over Tebow. But
what team do you root for? I couldn't tell.
And there was a big defensive end from Kentucky that was the first to really knock Tebow out in college. I can't think of his name right now, but
that was pretty gross too. I remember that hit.
But yeah, I'm not a big Tebow fan, but I mean, I think of the two, of what I saw on Friday, of the two, he's certainly the better quarterback compared to Sanchez. I wasn't impressed at all with him.
You thought Tebow was better than Sanchez?
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Yeah. Sanchez couldn't do anything, man. He couldn't move the ball at all. At least Tebow could, hold the ball for like 5 seconds and then take off running for 20 yards. Sanchez can't even do that. But we were in the backfield every play. I don't know if the Jets are just really bad on the line or if our defensive line is that good. And it may well be that that's the case because, we've got a Pro Bowl defensive tackle. We've got a couple of emerging defensive ends, and then we've got some young guys, including a couple of high draft picks this year. So I'm excited about the line that we have.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts on the preseason from week 1, the game 1. Obviously, the Bengals win 17-6 over the Jets. Email us at podcast@whodayfans.com. All right, let's take care of the Who-Dey Weekly poll question.
It's time now for the Who-Dey Weekly poll question.
This week we ask, who would you rather return punts for the Bengals? The reason I asked this question, Tim, it sounds like Adam Jones is lobbying to be the punt returner on this team. He said he's ready to do it again. By the way, nice hat. You got it on there. Smooth.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask this question. Who would you rather return punts for the Bengals? Adam Jones, Brandon Tate, Andrew Hawkins, Marvin Jones, or somebody else? Log on to whodayfans.com and place your vote. Tim, who would you vote for?
Well, Baby Hawk is kind of a personal favorite of mine. I got to meet him at training camp last year in Georgetown. And he's a really nice guy, and his brother was a former player, and I think he's a local broadcaster now,
yep.
Or was anyway. So he's just a guy I kind of root for, and he seems to make plays when he's in the game. So that's who I'm rooting for. But Tate stepped up in the last game, at receivers. So I'm sure he's still got some say in it. Maybe He just had trouble adjusting last year, and we're going to see the real Tate this year. Pac-Man, like he, coming out of college, he was very fast, and but he's made a few plays here and there, with us and with the Titans, but I've just not seen the level that he was expected to be at yet from him, and I'm not going to hold my breath for that. But he has made some big plays before. I think last year in the Seattle game, he made a big return. That kind of turned that game around. So
and then he got hurt. he had been off for like 6
play.
weeks, and then finally he makes one play and pulls up lame.
Yeah. So, Pac-Man always just kind of worries me anyway, because I'm just afraid that he's going to do something stupid. And maybe he's beyond that point in his life, but I thought Chad was too, and then you see what happened there.
That's what you call a tease, ladies and gentlemen. So I personally, I like Adam Jones back there. He always seems to do something exciting back there, makes plays, whatever you want to call it. He's currently leading. Last I checked, he's got 100% of the votes right now. So make sure you log on whodayfans.com. That is our poll question of the week. Who would you rather return punts for the Bengals? Adam Jones, Brandon Tate, Andrew Hawkins, or Marvin Jones? And, of course, you can also vote other as well. Let's do some shout-outs, Tim.
Shout-outs!
Who you got this week?
Well, I'm going to shout out a couple of fans of the show that I got to meet at the game. Brian Sparkman from Waterloo, Indiana, who's, he's been a long-time fan of the show, and got to meet his brother also at the game. So that, it was fun. It was neat to get to put a face with a Twitter account, so to speak, and I enjoyed that. And then my guys, Bader and Reed, I'm going to give them a shout-out since they're not going to be on the podcast tonight.
Oh, man. They always seem to make their way into Who-Dey Weekly, don't they, Tim?
Oh, yeah. Those guys are they're like a infection. It's like a staph infection, They're just going to creep in.
There's no surprise there. My shout-outs this week, I've got a couple of some new followers. Chris Dale, he's at Dale72. Stephen W. Matthews, he's Stephen W. Matthews. Sam Rogers is at Who-Dey74. And Aaron Vale, he's at Aaron D. Vale. Some of the newest followers of the Who-Dey Weekly Twitter account. If you want to be shouted out, make sure you give us a follow at Who-Dey Weekly. You can follow Tim. He's at TIMMBOOTS, at Timm Bates. And give Mickey a follow as well. He's at Who-Dey Fans. Don't forget, you can rate and review the show on iTunes. We really want to hear your feedback. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the last couple of weeks since we started asking for people to leave reviews. Some of the stuff I've read is just incredible, and I really do appreciate all the support out there. We love doing this show. We do it every week for you, the fans, so please continue to leave feedback. My goal is to be the #1 rated NFL podcast in the iTunes store. I think it's doable, right, Tim?
Yeah, we were top 10 last year in sports podcasts. So, and it's not like we live in Dallas or New York or L.A. We're not a big market, so that just says that the Bengals community is passionate and loves their team, and and we're the only show in town, people. So, even if there is another Bengals podcast, I've never listened to it.
Well said, Tim. Even if there is another Bengals podcast you like, let us know. I'd love to have them on, and vice versa. But again, we appreciate your support here at the podcast, and we love it that everybody tunes in on Wednesday night. The chat room is active tonight. So every Wednesday night, 9:00 Eastern time, log on to whodayfans.com/video. You can check us out as we record the show each and every week, 9:00 Wednesday nights. And please support SPNT shows by using our Amazon affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any extra. You're already on Amazon.com making the purchases. Just log on to spnt.tv/Amazon and please use our affiliate link. We certainly appreciate the support. One other thing that we've been doing over the last few weeks, the 85 for 85 contest. Yes, believe it or not, folks, it is still on. However, over the weekend, Chad was arrested for simple battery. Not good. He's also getting a divorce now from his wife of 41 days. Clearly, he's got a lot on his plate. So the chances of him doing the Who-Dey Weekly podcast, slim and none. However, we are still here. We want Chad on, and most importantly, Tim and I want you to win 2 tickets to the Oakland Raiders game as we watch Carson Palmer stink it up again against the Cincinnati Bengals. So log on to whodayfans.com/85for85 to read the rules and submit your tweets to Chad. You can submit as many tweets as you want. In fact, the more tweets you send to Chad, the more chances you have to win. So make sure you log on again, that website, whodayfans.com/85for85, and take part in the contest. And you can hang out with Tim and I at the Raiders game, and also Mickey as well. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Speaking of the weekend, though, Tim, Chad Johnson had a rough one. And what I really want to talk about is Keyshawn Johnson blaming the Cincinnati Bengals organization for Chad's actions over the weekends. Your response?
Well, I think Keyshawn's full of crap. I find that to be completely outrageous. Chad had a arrest in college for a battery incident, so it's not completely out of character for him. And I mean, he's not been with us for a couple of years, and even though it contradicts what he said on Hard Knocks, he really sucked the last couple of years he was here. So, I mean, he's not really been relevant for the Bengals for at least 3 years, maybe 4. So, I'm just not worried about Ted. It'd be fun to have him on just to talk to him. But, and Keyshawn, come on, man. Just throw me the damn ball or whatever his book was. I mean, he's just kind of a joke to me. So it's not a big deal to me. I don't see how the Bengals could possibly be involved, but it's the kind of thing that you get from people like him and Chris Berman, just people that love to bash the Bengals.
Now, let's be clear here. Keyshawn is a cousin of Chad's, so add that to the equation, I guess. Still, it was a bad move. I'm pretty sure. I was kind of surprised. I never really saw Chad as being that way, I guess. I remember the lovable, fun guy coming into the league, wanting to make an impression. The guy who, at halftime of the Raiders game a couple years ago in Oakland, running up to Jerry Rice to talk to him, to introduce himself. That's what I want to remember about Chad. I don't want to remember this Chad. And it's unfortunate that he was cut by the Dolphins. Clearly, his bye week will not coincide with the 85th episode of Who-Dey Weekly now. Tim, do you even think he'll have a bye week this week, or will 16 weeks of a bye be going for him?
I can't remember who it was on the chat that said it, but somebody suggested that he would end up with the Raiders. And, that wouldn't be that big of a shock to me, especially if Palmer struggles right out the box and, they're just kind of doing whatever they can to try to make Palmer feel more comfortable. I could kind of see that, but I really feel like Chad's just kind of past his prime, and you see it a lot with people in their early to mid 30s in the NFL anyway. You're not quite as fast as you used to be, and so that covers up some of the other mistakes that you make. So it's kind of disappointing that Chad has turned out the way he has, because at one point, he had put on that jacket that said like Hall of Fame 20, whatever. And, I think at this point, having done nothing outside of the first 8 or 9 years here, I don't think there's any chance that he's a Hall of Famer. And it really seems like it's over for him. He might as well just start planning his next reality show.
Burn from Tim. No, Bader.
Sorry, Chad.
Bader has a interesting comment in the chat room, Tim. He says Carson would quit again if Chad Johnson goes to the Raiders. How funny would that? He'd be that would be hilarious. I don't think that Chad will end up in Oakland. In fact, I'm pretty certain that there has to be a big injury somewhere. But even then, I don't even know if any NFL team is going to take a flyer on him. I do think he's done in the NFL, which is unfortunate, because this is a guy who was very productive here in Cincinnati. They just never could get over that hump, win that playoff game, and they never seem to get out of their own way.
Baltimore is well known for taking past their prime receivers and adding them their roster in training camp. So, yeah, that could be a possibility too.
Well, good. Maybe he'll go to Baltimore, and we'll have to worry about one less receiver to cover. But the chat room does make a good point. The Seahawks just recently picked up Terrell Owens, who we thought was done in the league. So you never know.
Yeah, I'm so glad we have AJ Green. Let me just say, AJ Green, if you ever want to be on the show, just give us a call. We'll gladly put you on here. You're our new favorite guy.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. All right, so enough about that. Let's look ahead to the Falcons game, Tim. Hopefully they can avoid the injuries. What are you looking for as far as the first-team offense goes? Seemed to struggle the first time out, but looks like on the second drive they were able to move the ball down the field. They settled for 3, but they still were able to move the ball.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind that they're playing everything very close to the to the best. They don't want to give away, some of the tricks that they're planning. But I'd like to see more from the running game. It just didn't get much going last week, and I did enjoy Green Ellis getting some catches out of the backfield. That's a wrinkle that I'm really looking for us to exploit this year. But with Bernard Scott out, it just makes it a lot harder to do. It makes us more one-dimensional. Green Ellis is more, up the middle between the tackles, and Scott's more of a outside, big play guy. And, so it'll help when we've got him back. But, I just like to see us get a first-team touchdown this week and kind of put the pressure on Atlanta. And I honestly can't remember, maybe you know this off the top of your head, but I haven't looked it up yet, when the last time we won in Atlanta was. But it seems like it's been a long time.
Oh, man, you've got me stumped. They lost a couple years ago when they went down when Carson was the quarterback with T.O.
Game. And then we got slaughtered on a Sunday or Monday night.
Yeah, it was a
Sunday
night.
Ago.
It was a Sunday night.
Yeah, that was bad. So we just need to go down there and whip some tail.
Again, it's the preseason. I mean, what I'm looking for is putting points in the end zone, getting the ball in the end zone, and I'm looking for the defense to continue to play like they did last week. I mean, it's really that simple. And most importantly, avoid the injury, the injury bug. From all accounts, from what I've been reading all week, Jarvis Green Ellis is out Thursday night against the Falcons with a sore foot.
I hadn't heard that.
He is out. We know that Maluga's out, Dunlap's out, Wharton's out. The secondary still banged up. Last week we found out that Brandon Gee broke his wrist after we recorded the show. So there's injuries all over the place, but we need to – hopefully we can avoid that. And at the same time, you don't want people who are currently injured making it worse. So a lot of the guys, from what I've been reading, what Marvin Lewis said, they're just going to stay here in town and get their rehab in. So you might not see a lot of starters
Thursday night. They're carrying like 900 people in training camp post new CBA, so they've got plenty of bodies to throw out there, and let's just give some young guys a chance to do it. The only game we're worried about is week 1 versus Baltimore.
Absolutely. The one thing that I think that with Maluga going down, I think that really helps Scuda. It helps Burfict as well. Get some more snaps in the middle, see what they can do. Now you don't have to worry about getting Ray his work in. So, hey, I think it might be a good thing for the Bengals that Maluga got hurt.
Yeah, that's true. The only thing that he'll be missing, though, is, we're really looking for him to take over this leadership role. And, he's kind of the gray-beard, him and Leon Hall. There's a couple of guys that have been around for a while. But, Maluga's in a position where you really need that to be a position of strength for your team. And, I just like to see him get that opportunity to step up and be a leader and keep everybody doing what they need to be doing. And hopefully he'll be back soon.
Bader in the chat room does bring up a good point about Maluga because he does need to work. He does need to get the snaps in. So maybe the injury is a bad thing as well. But I do like seeing some other guys get a chance to show what they can do.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to hurt to get those guys ready and to give them opportunities. And Scooter really impressed me
He had a great game
this week. Yeah, he played outstanding. He had that block punt. I mean, you don't get to see that very often. I was very jealous because my kids got to see it, right in front of them, and it was just a pivotal point in that game. And it was anybody's game at that point, and that took all the wind out of the Jets' sails. Rex Ryan lost like 50 pounds instantly on the sideline, but it completely deflated their team, and the game was over at that point.
So the Bengals head to Atlanta Thursday night, and obviously we'll recap the game next week on Who-Dey Weekly. Speaking of next week, we have a special guest coming on the show. Former Bengals tight end Reggie Kelly will be joining us here on Who-Dey Weekly next week. I'm looking forward to talking to Reggie, Tim.
Yeah, he was a guy that was featured prominently on Hard Knocks the year they did it with the Bengals, and you had to feel bad for the guy. He had that horrific what was his
I think it was
Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very tough injury to come back from everything I've ever heard about it. So he seems like a good guy. He was one of Palmer's favorite guys on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and Palmer would always just flip out and say, this is the guy that's got to be back. So I'm not going to hold that against him, but he seemed like a good guy the times I met him at training camp. So I'm looking forward to getting to pick his brain a little bit, and it's a pretty opportune time to have him on too because he once played for the Falcons.
Yeah, that's right. He did, and it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm looking forward to talking with him. It'll be the first time we'll have I guess I shouldn't say the first time. We did have a former Bengal on, and Anthony Munoz a year ago, but maybe we'll have to try and get Anthony again. Last year we had him on just before the season started, if you recall, and he said the Bengals would win 6 games, and well, he was wrong. I think we all kind of were surprised at what they did last year, but it'll be interesting to see what Reggie has to say about his time in Cincinnati, as well as playing for some other teams around the NFL. Don't forget, rate and review the show on iTunes, and I want to hear your thoughts on the Jets game and what goes down during the Falcons game tomorrow night. Email us at podcast@whodayfans.com and follow us on Twitter at Who-Dey Weekly. Tim, it's been fun, and hopefully we'll catch up to you next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game this weekend, and hopefully we can take care of business in Hot Atlanta, but we'll find out. This will be the game where the starters probably won't play a whole lot. Week 3 is usually where they play for a long time, so we'll get to see a lot of the backups, but that's really where the intrigue is with this team. Our stars are pretty established, and it's the back end of the roster that and I think that's really what Marvin has improved the most in the time that he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
Is the back end of the roster is pretty good. A lot of our guys can go and start in other places now, so
it's probably one
I'm
of the
looking
deepest
forward to
teams
it.
he's ever had.
Yeah.
So, and talent, hopefully talent across the board helps make the rest of the guys better. But yeah, I'm looking forward. Hopefully the Bengals win again on Thursday night as they take on the Falcons. That's going to wrap up episode 76. Tim, we'll catch up next week, man.
All right. It's been fun, man.
Don't forget, you can email us at podcast@whodayfans.com and follow us on Twitter at Who-Dey Weekly. Who-Dey Weekly is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. For Mickey and Tim, I'm Subes, and we'll see you next week on Who-Dey Weekly. Who-Dey.
Who-Dey.